Hey everyone, my name is Tony Martinez and welcome to the Riches and Niches Conference. This is our virtual format. Thank you for joining us today. I am with LPT Realty and we are excited to be presenting this program in several locations across the country. The goal is to make this a national tour, but we also wanted to use it in a way for virtually so that folks throughout the entire country can go ahead and have access to it and not have to necessarily wait until we come to your area. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me start with a little brief introduction. I am a Florida licensed broker associate for 11 years. I was the co-broker owner along with my wife, Gabi, of Extreme International Realty here in Broward County, Florida. We were at about 210, 220 agents and very successful independent brokerage. But in May of this year, we made a decision to merge with LPT Realty. And now I'm no longer the broker of record, which is awesome, but I am a team leader of a decent sized team. So I'm really excited to have made that decision and that move. And a little bit later in the presentation, I'm going to go ahead and share just a tiny bit about the LPT model and why it's so exciting for me. If you're with LPT now, then you already know I'm preaching to the choir. If you're not, then I'm going to deliver a lot of content, folks, but we feel that in exchange for all the content we're going to deliver, a brief commercial about what it is that we offer is a fair exchange. I'm also the proprietor and lead instructor for the CDPE, which stands for Certified Distress Property Expert. This is a designation course, privately owned, that teaches agents how to work pre-foreclosures and short sales, which happens to be one of the niches that we're going to be talking about today. And throughout my career, I have personally trained at least 25,000 agents. When I first went to work for the CDPE in 2008, when the whole world collapsed and we had the great financial crisis and we had millions of foreclosures, I was traveling the country teaching agents how to help folks avoid foreclosure. And when we couldn't help them avoid foreclosure, how to exit with dignity. Do we have anybody here that was licensed back in 2008? If you can kind of raise your hand in the chat area. I'm kind of taking a little non-official survey of just, how long the folks have been in the business here. Okay, don't all answer at once, folks. That's okay. So just go ahead, take your time. I know it's complicated. It's kind of like, which hand do I put up, the right hand or the left hand? I don't even think that's really an option, but all right then. So I'll just go ahead and move on. So anyway, this is my team as it is today. We're a unique team in the sense that when you typically look at a team, you have 10, 20, 30 people on the team. What we did is we rolled an entire brokerage over into LPT. We actually operate like a brokerage within a brokerage. We have about 150 team members. So it's not like your typical team scenario, but I'm excited. For us, we did this move because we wanted to make life better for them. We wanted them to excel in their careers. And that's it. Let's talk about the Riches and Niches Conference. Well, I originally did it earlier this year in April. Just had this crazy idea. Hey, what if I got together several amazing speakers and we just taught agents different facets of the business that typically are not focused on? It was an experiment. I'm glad I did it. It actually worked out. I had 11 different speakers throughout the day, 11 speakers, each had about 40, 45 minutes. And it was amazing. And it gave me insights as to, there's an appetite for this. When I first joined LPT and I had the honor of having the founder, Robert Palmer, here in our office, I pitched him on the idea, hey, listen, if I do this again, will you get behind me on it? He goes, absolutely, count us in. And as he was leaving, he said, it'd be really cool if you could do it live and in person. And I thought, yeah, but that's kind of tough with all these speakers. And then it wasn't until later that I got the idea, wait a minute, why does it have to be 11 speakers? Why does it have to be a full day? Why can't I make it just a couple of hours and focus on 3 niches, maybe 4 niches at some point? And I can be the presenter on all 3 or 4 because I have experience in all 4 of these areas. And that's what brings us here today. This is a shortened version of the Riches and Niches full day conference. My goal today are simple. I always do things in threes. Open your eyes to opportunities that you may not know have existed, or maybe you did, you just haven't really been paying attention to it. Next, I want to create a sense of urgency that if you are interested in any of the three or all of the three niches that I talk about today, that you seek the proper training. Because what tends to happen is kind of like the law of diminishing intent. The further away you get from a presentation, the less likely you are to implement anything there. So as I talk about pre-foreclosures and working with investors and working with probate, if you're not up to speed on how to do these niches, then you need to get the right training. And I'll introduce you to what I believe, in my humble opinion, is the right training. And last but not least, again, as I mentioned, a brief 2 or 3 minute introduction to the LPT opportunity, and away we go. Would you agree with this statement that the struggle is absolutely real? I talk to agents all the time, and a lot of the agents that are in the business right now came on board during COVID. So COVID hit us kind of like March, April of 2020. At first, we thought the world was going to end as far as our real estate business, and it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to real estate as far as volume. And then 2021 was just an amazing, amazing year for real estate. And then what happened after that? Yeah, you know what happened after that. And we know that agents are struggling. And now it's not something that's being hidden anymore. I think a lot of companies tried to kind of spin it at the very beginning in different ways, but now we know it's true. We know that this is happening. So we can either deal with it or not deal with it. And a lot of agents are exiting the business. We started this year with about 1.6, maybe 1.5 million realtors in that area there. At least 100,000 realtors have left the business. And every time I bring this up, there are no tears. I haven't seen a single agent cry over the fact that there are fewer agents out there. And sometimes we can be very judgmental. We can say, hey, listen, it's the weaker agents that are leaving. It's the people that are hobbyists. They're not really business people. I know it's easy to say that, but I also know some very, very good, hardworking individuals that just have had a terrible year. They just really weren't prepared for what's going on. And they've had to seek employment elsewhere. Maybe they can't, pay the board and everything else. So this is my outreach program. This is the way I reach out to them and say, listen, okay, 2024 sucked. Let's just call it what it is. Now we can go into 2025 with that kind of mindset, or we can turn around and say, all right, we get to start over. Because that's one of the things I love about the new year. Regardless of how good or bad your year was, at 12 a.m. on January 1st, we're all at zero. All of our incomes reset. So you get to start fresh. But let's not continue to repeat the same patterns that brought us to where we are today. There's opinion, which we all are entitled to, and then there's facts, and facts are usually backed up by stats. And then let me give you some. So 2023, last year we did 4.09 million units, which represented a 19% decrease from the year before. So let me tell you, 2021, we did 6 million units. Oh, everybody was making money. And then it was 2022, and that dropped to a little over 5 million. Well, maybe, anybody deserves a bad year. It'll get better. No, it didn't. It went down to 4 million. And folks, this year, we'll be lucky if we hit 3.7 million units. That's not enough. That's not enough with the number of realtors we have. Now, I mentioned we have about 1.4 million realtors. We have over 3 million licensees in the country. So there's a difference between being licensed and being a realtor. There's all kind of stats flying around out there. I've seen everything from 50 to 70% of real estate agents haven't closed a single transaction this year. I don't even know which of those stats to believe, but I know that the volume is down and something needs to change. Now, chaos. Besides the lack of volume, then we had the NAR requirements, whatever you want to call it, the new rules go into place on August 17th. So if we weren't having a rough enough year, here we go. And agents stressed out over having to completely rethink their business. What do you mean list buyers? I got to get this paperwork done. I got to get that done. And yeah, that was very disruptive. But I've always been drawn to this quote that in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. There is opportunity for those that seize the moment and go ahead and do something about it. Here's something that ever since I got the idea for the riches and niches, I have been advocating. In fact, my staff is also like sick of me saying this, but I do believe that we have too many general practitioners in real estate. When we get our licenses, we basically are trying to be all things to all people. And we basically are, okay, rentals, sales, buyers. Oh yeah, I'll try investments. I'll try this and that. And then what tends to happen, we kind of stay in that mode. And the analogy I like to use is that what we really should be doing is becoming specialists, a specialization. And when I ask the question, what's the biggest difference between general practitioners, say in the medical field, a general practitioner is your primary doctor that you go to, right? What's the basic difference, primary difference between them and specialization? I get kind of different answers. I get skill set, training, but the real answer is money, income. The basic difference between them is specialists earn more money. Yes, as a result of their training, as a result of their skill set, but they make more money. Next time you go to a doctor's appointment and you're walking through the parking lot, if you see a Mercedes or a Beamer, there's a pretty good chance that that's a doctor. If you see a Lamborghini, pretty good chance that that is a specialist. So I'm on this quest to try to get agents to become specialists in different areas. Now, you're not limited to the number of areas you can specialize in. I think if you're starting from scratch, don't try to do too many at one time. Maybe pick one and work on that for 1/4 of the year and so on and so forth. But if you agree with me on this, how about responding with, I don't know, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up in the chat area that says, yeah, I am a believer that specialization is the way to go. I just want to see whether there's actually anybody even paying attention. So how about that? All right. Next, would you agree with this statement? Being a listing agent now is more important than ever before. It's always been the staple in our business, be a listing agent, be a listing agent. But now with the new buyer broker and compensation and everything else, it's even more important now to be a listing agent, because guess who's not really at all or very little concerned about getting paid on transactions right now? The listing agents. So just take more listings. And you know what? Every listing you take gives you an opportunity to do both sides. So double the production from just one listing. So why not go that route? Okay. Here's the way I look at it. Listings are easy to get, right? They grow on trees. Probably not. So if you're brand new, or you can remember when you were brand new and you went to your first listing appointment, I like to use this analogy. It's kind of like walking up to the tree and realizing that the listing is at the very top. You didn't know that. And you showed up without a ladder. You're not ready. This is how a lot of agents feel when they're brand new and they've never done listing presentation before. They're like, I'm not ready to do this. I'm not ready to do this. Okay. And then chances are those sellers are interviewing more than one agent. So just so happens the second agent shows up with a really long ladder. What does that tell you? They've done this before. And then the third one asks you to move over because they're backing up a cherry picker. And it's kind of like, like that pop sound I've been practicing so it can kind of sound realistic. But they kind of snag that listing more often than not, because for the same money, why not get the agent with the most experience? And this can be very, very discouraging for newer agents. And a lot of them will just absolutely just stay away from listings for a while and say, let me go work with buyers because it's easier. Well, not so much anymore. And it's just one of the other reasons why we joined LPT, because we knew that with their marketing materials, we could go out there with our listing power kits and get more listings than we did before because we were better equipped. But I believe there's a better way. Now, this statement here is not always agreed upon. I like to be controversial. I mean, come on. When you get to my age, I don't care about filters and everything else. I just don't believe it's not up to us to motivate sellers to sell or buyers to buy. Now, there's people out there that are trying to convince you that it's a really, really good idea for you to go ahead and brush up on your dialogue for how to convince sellers to list their properties for sale in today's market. We all know that there's a ton of sellers sitting on the sidelines right now that maybe have a very, very low interest rate and have decided to wait because they don't want to sell. They need to buy something else. And why would they get out of a mortgage that's 2.5% and get into a mortgage that's 6.5% or even 7%? So a lot of them, as you know, are sitting on the sidelines. Well, what are you going to tell those folks to convince them to go ahead and make the move now? I don't think that there's a whole lot you can do about that. So there's a different approach. See if you agree with this. We need to focus on identifying motivated sellers and buyers. Why don't we just, instead of knocking on every door that says, hey, any chance you're thinking about selling today? Oh, I really hadn't really thought about it until you knocked on my door. How about we find the individuals that have no choice but to sell right now? If you're getting a divorce, chances are you got to sell. If there's a death in the family and you're in one of the heirs, chances are you got to sell that property via probate. If you're losing your home to foreclosure, chances are you won't be able to stay there and you're going to have no choice but to sell. If you're in the military, you get relocated. If you're in a job and you have to get relocated. See, these are the things that I'm trying to impart on agents, that there's so much business sitting there waiting for us to go get if we just decided to shift our thinking to just zero in on the folks that have no choice but to sell or have a tremendous desire, need to buy or sell right now. So today we're going to focus on 3 niches. I'm not saying that these are the only niches that are out there, but these are my 3 favorite ones because I can relate to them the most. First is the pre-foreclosure market, and that is dominating pre-foreclosure. Well, what is pre-foreclosure? Well, anything prior to losing the home. Now, this term is misused a lot out there, but a lot of folks convince what I teach with REOs. I'm not an REO specialist. REO stands for real estate owned. And every time an REO happens, I'm saddened because it tells me that no one really stepped up, or maybe someone did try, or maybe someone tried, they didn't know what they were doing. No one really tried to help those sellers, those distressed homeowners, sell that property prior to it going into foreclosure. And now that individual's dealing with potentially serious consequences. And I'm going to share some of those consequences today. The other one is investors. And I'm not just talking about the one that watches HGTV and walks out and says, hey, how would that be fix and flip? I'm talking about professional, sophisticated investors. If you were to go ahead and learn how to speak their language and learn to approach them the right way, you could build a power base, a business base that will far exceed anything that you can do on a retail level. And then there's probate. And this is probably one of the hottest segments right now. This is absolutely a market that agents are beating the doors down to get training in because they understand that the potential there is amazing. So let's start with my favorite, what I am the owner of and everything else, the pre-foreclosure market. Remember that tree I was telling you, that's the listing tree? I believe foreclosures are the low-hanging fruit. I just think that they're ignored, and they're ignored for several reasons. Number one reason is maybe someone had a bad experience. If you were around back in 08, 09, you probably had no choice but to try to do a short sale. Maybe it just was a horrific experience for you. Maybe you never tried to do it yourself, but you hear people talk about it and you say, ooh, I'm never going to go there. You know, it's amazing how many times I have taught my class live and in person. And I warn the agents in the audience, hey, look, I want to teach you how to do this, but don't be surprised if you go back to your broker and your broker tries to talk you out of it. And they'll say, well, why would my broker even attempt to talk me out of it? I go, well, chances are they're not familiar with how to do short sales and pre-foreclosures, and they're afraid you're going to come to them with questions that they cannot answer, so they're going to try to talk you out of it. And almost every time I do that, an agent, maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, a month later, will go ahead and find my information, call me up and say, Tony, you were right. Can I come join your team? Because they realize they're not going to be in a supported environment there. Yeah, you do have to surround yourself with people that understand your vision and your dreams, and they want to help you exceed. Unfortunately, this is the majority of the industry still. You know, one of the questions I'm asked a lot, for example, I'll be at a trade show I'll be at an event and people will walk by and say, hey, so foreclosures are coming back? And, after you hear that 10 times, you start to develop an attitude. And my response is, you know what? They never went away. Oh, well, what I mean is it going to be as bad as it was in 2008? And I says, you know what? For people that are going through it, it's bad enough. And that's just how I look at it. I mean, you can choose to look the other way, but there are definitely foreclosures out there. I'm not saying the numbers are anywhere near 2008, 9, and 10 numbers. I'm not even forecasting that they will. I did that initially. When I first bought the CDP 3 years ago, I was a doom and gloom kind of guy. I mean, I was wrong, but a lot of people smarter than me were wrong. Maybe I wasn't wrong, but my timing was off. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. So I don't focus on that. You know what I focus on? The number of delinquencies right now, the number of people that are struggling right now, and how much potential business they could be there for you if you elect to try to help these people. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of stats because we don't have the time for that, but I will point you toward a site, adamdata.com. I go to adamdata.com all the time. In fact, today I went on there and the November numbers are out right now. So you can go there and you can pull your own stats. But I do want to showcase 2 slides. This is a really, really good representation of what we went through. You notice that there's always foreclosures, but there was a tremendous spike in foreclosure activity in 08, 9, and 10. And this is when I was the busiest. This is when I was traveling all across the country, teaching agents on the topic of short sales. Now, as the market improved, the recession went away, people went back to work, things improved. But notice that as the economy improved and the market improved, the number of foreclosures went down, but they never once hit zero. In fact, in 2020 and 2021, when COVID hit and we had moratoriums in place that should have protected individuals from foreclosure, they still took place. And then what's been happening since then, the numbers have been growing. Notice that 2022, 324,000, 2023, 357. I believe the numbers for this year, when it's all said and done, will exceed 2023. I don't believe they're going to be quite near 2019 numbers yet. But again, bad enough for the individuals that are going through it. I did pull some numbers from November, just to kind of give you an illustration of the top 5 states. And Nevada is number 1. Now, when I look at this list, most of the time, most months, it's kind of like deja vu all over again, because it reminds me of 08 and 09, because the same 10 states always seem to be in the top 10, right? Nevada, once again, it's back up there. Usually it's California, Florida, Nevada, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, but this time around, it's Nevada, followed by Florida, my home state, then Connecticut, Maryland, and Indiana. And just understand something, November numbers are light right now, because what tends to happen is, believe it or not, whether lenders have a heart or not, I don't know, or the courts have a heart or not, but they really tend to slow down and in some cases implement their own internal moratorium against foreclosures during the holidays. Because it's kind of like, do we really want to kick somebody out of their home, during the holidays? So you do see normally these ease up in November and December, which can give someone the impression that things are improving. They're not. They just kick the can down the road. One of the biggest objections that I received when I first bought the CDP, and I was hailed as both a visionary and a scam artist, and on the same day. Imagine that. It was like, man, Stoney, thank you so much for bringing it back. See, a lot of folks don't know that the CDP went away. I mean, we hit 48,000 members, fastest growing designation ever in the history of real estate. And then the former owners at one point, 2020, decided to close it down. When I saw the future and I started looking at how many people were getting into forbearance agreements, 8 million plus folks getting into forbearance agreements, I started thinking, down the road, a lot of folks are going to be in for a rude awakening. They're going to go to sell their home and not realize that there is a mortgage on that property, an additional loan on that property that they totally forgot about. And that's when I approached the former owners and said, hey, listen, what about selling it to me? And they did, and we brought it back in June of 2021. Now, people started throwing in my face, how can there be a foreclosure crisis when when there's so much equity in the market. And I got tired of hearing the term equity rich, because I think it's bull. And let me tell you why I think it's bull. Number one, well, let's start with with this thing here. You can have all the equity in the world and still not be able to afford to make your payments. Okay, being able to make your payments and having equity are two separate issues. That is the first thing I got to try to get across. There's people right now sitting on $200,000 worth of equity and they get laid off of their job. The next month, they can't afford to make their payments. You know why? 62% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. That's sad. 33% of Americans that make over $150,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. That's sadder. And only 40% of Americans have at least $1,000 sitting in a savings account for emergencies. That's just downright depressing. Folks, we're a nation of spenders, not a nation of savers. When you look at the restaurants right now, you would swear there's no issue out there. You see the billions of dollars that were spent on Black Friday and the even more billions that were spent on Cyber Monday. There's no issue whatsoever, folks. We're just fine until those credit card bills start coming in. And I don't know if you've been paying attention, but credit card delinquencies are up. Car loan delinquencies are up. And because of the election and all the other news that's taken all the oxygen out of the room, people are not paying attention to the number of layoffs that are happening. And they are happening. So I look at it this way. It's going to happen one way or the other. And all that equity that people say we have, what if they already tapped it? What if they already took out a HELOC? What if they refinanced once or twice when it was really advantageous to do so, and they pulled all that cash out of their property? Maybe they're not sitting on the amount of equity that they thought they would. Sorry, I get on my soapbox because I'm passionate about this, because just there's really nobody else really talking about this, right? Here's what I do. I teach you all this over a period of modules, right? 23 modules. And this is one of them right here. So I'm actually giving you content from my course. It's important that we understand that there are significant, severe consequences to a foreclosure. It's not just, hey, bank, take the house and I walk away. It's not that simple. So let's go through this. What I like to do is actually encourage my students to memorize this, to commit this to memory, kind of like having arrows in your quiver. Here's the problem. One of the many problems in our industry, we don't role play anymore. We stopped being an industry that understands dialogue. See, I used to be a seminar promoter, and the first promoters that the first speakers I promoted were Floyd Wickman and Mike Ferry. So you may know these names. I mean, these are like the kings, right? And especially Floyd. Floyd is like a mentor to me. He taught me the importance of dialogue. Write this down, but this is what he taught me. He said, you got to know what to say. You have to know how to say it, and you have to know when to say it. Isn't that powerful? That's what we lost in the industry. We gotten so technical and we gotten so much into all this stuff that we forget that we're going to get face to face with someone. They're going to come up with an objection, and you're going to have to say something other than and that's called dialogue. Now, how do you get to be a dialogue duke? You get scripts. You find scripts that match your personality, and then you make them your own by putting in your personality, your facial expressions, your hand gestures, your fluctuations in your voice, your tonality, and then it goes from being a script to a dialogue. I try to impart this on agents. Do they listen? Probably not. Because if you were listening, you would get together with other agents in your office and say, let's practice on each other, as opposed to operating on live specimens. Let's operate on each other so we make mistakes with one another. But when you get a foreclosure, it can stay on your record for 7 years. Yeah, it can stay on your record for 7 years. So let's say I'm talking to someone and say, dude, the last thing you want is to have a foreclosure on your record, man. It's going to screw up your credit. You know, the foreclosure is going to stay on your record for 7 years. Now, that's kind of like the stick approach. I'm trying to scare them into kind of taking some action. What if they come back and say, dude, I could care less. I'll pay everything cash from now on. I just want to get out of here. Well, that didn't work. So let me try a different approach and say, all right, so let me ask you this. You think you ever want to be a homeowner again in the future? Or do you just want to simply rent for the rest of your life? Hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah, I'm thinking I would like to be And homeowner, sure, why not? Who wouldn't want to be? All right, I thought you'd say that. So let me ask you this. Do you want to live with the restriction of not being able to qualify for a standard mortgage for 5 to 7 years? Or are you going to let me help you short sale your property and you might be able to qualify for a mortgage in only 2 to 3 years, my brother? So you tell me which one is better for you. And this is what I want my agents, I want my students to evolve to, just being able to have a conversation, just being able to have a candid, straight conversation with people at their level for them to understand that walking away isn't necessarily the best. It's your dirty laundry, brother, not mine. You're going to have to disclose this for the rest of your life every time you do a mortgage application. Now, even if, and plus just the fact that your credit's tanked, oof, pay for everything more. How about this? This should get their attention. What do you do for a living now? Well, I work at a bank. You ever ask your bank if you could stay working there, having a foreclosure on your record? Because there's a lot of jobs that you either can't get or will be fired from if they find out that you have a foreclosure on or a bankruptcy. By the way, bankruptcy stays on your record 10 years, just if you wanted to compare notes. So maybe the job you have right now won't fire you, but the job you always wanted won't hire you. That sucks. What if you have a security clearance, as a lot of people do? Well, do you notice your security clearance may be taken away from you if you have a foreclosure or bankruptcy on your record? I mean, if you're military, if you're law enforcement, if you are a private contractor, if you work in any of these fields here, wouldn't you want to speak to a superior or speak to HR before you let the bank take your house? You see how I did that? Just having this knowledge puts you in a position where you're much better equipped to talk to people that are going through that scenario. Now, this doesn't apply to all states, but the reality is that many states are, in fact, deficiency states. Florida is one of them. Yeah, in Florida, they have up to 1 year to come after you. So here's something you have to do some research in, some homework in, depending upon what state you're in. Does your state allow after a foreclosure for people to, for the bank or banks to come after you? Because that's just insult to injury right there. You lost the house, yet they're still going to go after you for the money. Now think about that. And you want to know the biggest revelation that has happened for me is that so many of the people that are going through foreclosure right now actually have equity. That's amazing to me. It used to be the other way around. See, Trisha's shaking her head because she feels it, right? You get it, right? So here's the thing. Back in the day, for every 10 foreclosures, 7 were underwater, right? The only way you can help them was through a short sale. Now it's reversed. Now 7 have equity. And I'm thinking, that's insane. Why would anybody with equity allow the bank to take their home? Why wouldn't you just list it for sale and net as much as you can from the sale? And it's simple. They didn't know. They're overwhelmed. They're just emotionally shot. They're not there. And guess what? We as an industry, we're not aggressive enough. You know who's aggressive? The scam artists. The scam artists are knocking on these people's doors the next day. And they're portraying themselves as saviors. And we are just sitting here aggressively waiting for the phone to ring. That's not how it works, folks. You got to pick up the phone. You got to knock on doors. But anyway, where am I going with this? Well, when you have a foreclosure, there's no advocate fighting on your behalf. You know, you lose the property and the bank may still think you played some games with them and may decide to go after you. But if you are underwater and we do go pursue a short sale, guess what? You have to disclose your entire financial history, right? They know you're broke, or you should be broke because that's one of the requirements, right? And if they're broke, why not pardon it? Why not just waive the right to come after you? And that's something we pursue in every short sale. I can never say never. I can never say always, but typically we're able to get this, okay? Module 9, short sales seller qualifications. You know, I cannot assume that everyone here knows what a short sale is or when a short sale applies. Let me tell you something. If you're not underwater, you don't even have a discussion about this. Folks, I've been in classes, okay? I've been to classes that I've taught And folks really don't understand what underwater is. They're like, you mean like during a flood? I go, ugh. No, not like during a flood. I mean during the fact that you owe this much and your house is only worth this much. You're underwater as far as equity. You don't have any. All right. So the only way we can potentially get you out of this is through a short sale. Oh, so what's a short sale? Well, a short sale is when we go to the bank and we ask them to lose a lot of money. That doesn't sound easy. It's not. Is it for everyone? It's not. There are three major qualifications. There should be a hardship. What is a hardship? A material change that takes place sometime after you bought the house, because when you bought the house, everything was wonderful. But then something happened after you bought the house that now prevents you from making those mortgage payments. And it's the usual suspects. You lost your job or they reduced your income. Your payments went up. You got a separation. You got divorced. You got sick. You died. You got bankrupted. And then maybe your business closed. Take your pick. You got to have at least one. And in more cases than not, people have more than one. So that's the first test when we sit down with someone is, ¿qué pasó? I ask people, what happened? ¿Qué pasó? And they go ahead and share their story with me. All right. So let me ask you about your finances. Do you have more month at the end of the money? And some people shake their head. I'm sorry, what was that? I go, well, let me ask you this. Do you run out of money on the 20th, but the month still has 31 days? I go, yeah, that's us, because that's what they're looking for. They want to see someone that has more expenses than they have income. All right. So that's you. You're 2/3 of the way there. Now, are you willing to go ahead and provide and disclose all of your financial records? Oh, no, that's nobody's business. No problem. Let me give you the business card of an agent that I don't like, and you can go ahead and contact them and see if they'll help you, because I won't. Because there's no way I'm going to go ahead and go bat for you and say, hey, bank, you should lose $200,000 for this person, but this person's not willing to disclose their financials to verify and substantiate the fact that they really are deserving of this assistance. Okay. Full disclosure is required by the sellers in these situations. What's number 3? Insolvent. What the heck is insolvent? It's a fancy word for broke. You should be broke, right? Because if you have $50,000 saving in a savings account, why aren't you making your mortgage payments? So the ideal candidate, write those two words down. The ideal candidate for a short sale is 1, they have a hardship, 2, they have a monthly income shortfall, and 3, they're insolvent / broke. Now, that doesn't mean they can't have a little bit of money. The bank knows that you need money to live. You got to go ahead and buy groceries, pay your car, and move eventually. But we're talking big money. Now, speaking of big money, what if you have some big money in an IRA or 401k? Well, don't sweat it. They're not going to go after it because they can't. That money is protected. They can't seize it. But hold on a second. They know you have it, so they can factor it into their decision making. Maybe they'll still work with you, but they'll want you to cough up some of that money in order to go ahead and make the deal happen. I know I'm hitting you with a lot, but when you go through the training, you're able to take it at your pace so that you can absorb it. I only have so much time to go ahead and kind of open your eyes to 3 different niches there. All right. Now, we can talk about the regular opportunities that are out there, but why? You guys know you can find those anywhere. I mean, foreclosures are public record. You just go to the courthouse site and you can go ahead and see what foreclosures they are. Your MLS may give you access to foreclosure data, or you sign up with one of these third-party companies like RedX, and you can get current information fed to you every single day. But I want to talk about 2 unique areas of opportunity that you may not be aware of that exist. Number 1 are short-term rentals, Airbnb property. See, remember during COVID, money was cheap, and a lot of folks started borrowing money to become investors, right? And they bought 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever of these short-term rental properties. And they use DSCR loans, which are basically the investor equivalent of a subprime loan. The qualification was based on the income you were going to generate. So very, very, very high risk loans. Well, you know what? They were printing money for a while. they were seriously printing money for a while. But guess what's happened since that time? Everybody and their brothers gotten into the short-term rental business. So now there's a glut of properties. So when you go on Airbnb and these guys, when there used to be 2 properties on a street, there's 18 properties and there's only 17 properties. I don't know how that works, but they make it happen. So anyway, something else is happening besides a glut of property. And that is some cities are saying, hey, we're done with this. This is hurting us. So you got cities, you got counties that are banning it. Many associations don't even let you do it. My neighbor used to be running an Airbnb out of his house until the association got wind and shut him down. And so like Hawaii is saying, we don't know if these are good for us. New York said, we're done. There's a whole lot of folks that were caught off guard in New York because there are very few properties that are allowed to be short-term rentals. So all of these things here can add up to people needing to sell. How about the fact that people just are burnt out? So what I would do if I were you is get a hold of for rent by owner lists. RedX sells them for rent by owners. And you can start approaching these absentee owners. Start approaching absentee owners with a question. Hey, have you thought about selling? And you know what? More and more people are going to be going into that realm as things continue to tighten up. So that's one area of opportunity. Let me hit you with another one, reverse mortgage short sales. Now, I'm not going to go into what a reverse mortgage is in any kind of detail, but I want to give you this. If you're 62 or older, you can qualify for what is called a reverse mortgage. And that is you can borrow against the equity of your property. And if you are successful in borrowing against that equity, okay, you can get some money up front and you can also get kind of like a credit line available to you. But once you do that, you no longer have to make a mortgage payment. Now, underline mortgage. You no longer have to make a mortgage payment. You still have to pay for property taxes, insurance, and any association dues, but you don't have to make a mortgage payment. Now, it's not free. Every payment you don't make gets added onto the back of the loan. So start doing some numbers. What if you took out a reverse mortgage at 62 and people live longer now, right? You're 82, you're 92. Before you have to pay it back. When do you have to pay it back? When you move or pass away, whichever comes first. All right. So just keep in mind, they've been living in that property, they've been borrowing against it, and that balance keeps growing and growing and growing. A significant percentage of these properties are going to be underwater. They're going to be underwater. So what's going to happen is the heirs now have to sell that property, but it's underwater. So the only way that they can sell it is through a short sale. You feeling what I'm saying here? And so I work with negotiators, and one negotiator in particular is amazing, Ophelia Sierra. And she was kind of like enlightening me as to the opportunities in this area. She was telling me this is as close to a guaranteed short sales you're going to get. I go, hey, careful. We don't use those words. I go, look, it's standardized numbers. You just have to hit the numbers. All right. So then I said, you know what? Can I interview you? I want you to bring this opportunity to my membership. And we did that. We did it back in March of this year. And it was eye-opening. It was amazing because I was able to quiz her and ask her this. And how do you do it? Where do you start? What do you do? All this kind of stuff. So if you're looking at this and going, man, I missed it. Yeah, you did. But if you're a member, if you're a CDPE, you have access to the recording because it's part of the resource, the resources I provide for my membership. So keep that in mind when I approach you in a couple of minutes with the opportunity to become a CDPE. This is an amazing opportunity for you. And, you know, we do this every month, every other month. We interview experts as a way of keeping you up to speed on what opportunities exist. You know, another opportunity is to start putting on webinars and seminars. To who? To people that are losing their homes. I call them foreclosure prevention seminars and webinars. If you're multilingual, perfect. You can do it in every language you know. Could you do it live and in person? Sure, but I'd rather do it on Zoom because I can reach a larger audience, right? Well, I don't know how to do this. I don't blame you. When I didn't know how to do it until I did it. But you don't have to do it alone. You could ask an attorney to be on the call with you, typically a real estate attorney or foreclosure defense attorney, or maybe a tax professional, or maybe a credit professional, or maybe, but just make sure that when you're promoting this, and you're going to have to promote it, You got to get butts in those virtual seats or virtual butts in those virtual seats. You have to promote it. So don't promote it as a short sale seminar. No one's going to go except other agents that want to know how to do a short sale. Promote it the right way. How to avoid foreclosure. Okay, how to avoid foreclosure. So to give you an example, this is one of my star students right here, Daniel. And he puts these on all the time. He's having amazing success. Now, when you look at his flyer right here, it says stop foreclosure seminar. Learn your options to avoid foreclosure. And this is very similar to the sample that I share with my members, because I feel, why not just give you a template to work from? And then you can improve on it or do whatever. This is very similar to that. So, just talk about that foreclosure is not the only option. That's probably the 6 or 7 the most powerful words you could ever use in your marketing. Foreclosure is not the only option. Okay. Now, understand something. The primary goal, especially within the CDP movement, is we want to help people stay in their home, which is counterintuitive because if they stay in their home, I don't make a commission. So what? You did the right thing. So we try to help them stay in their home. Sadly, most cannot afford to stay in their home. So when we can't help them stay, write this down, we try to help them exit with dignity. Exit with dignity. And that's what these classes are all about. Okay. He recently shared a testimonial with us. He talked about how he got his first pre-foreclosure listing since joining the CDPE. I've done a few in the past, but I'm more knowledgeable about the process and offered seller alternative options prior to listing. See, that's what we do. We share what options exist. The seller opted to sell and exit with dignity. Where have you heard that before? I have another under contract, 1 short sale active listing, and 2 distressed listings coming up. So one of the gals, because we have a private Facebook group just for CDPs, he goes, dude, this is awesome. I'd like to get more information about your webinar. He responds, monthly Zoom seminars, use Tony Martinez's presentation. See, what I did, because I'm an active team member, I try to help my team members to get more business as well. So I put on these for my team members, and then I invite my team members to promote the heck out of it, get the consumers to register directly through them, and get them on the call. Let me do what I do best. And then if these folks are going to take some action, I direct them back to whomever invited them to be on the call, right? But I noticed that a lot of agents weren't doing it because they didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to say it, when to say it. So you know what? The last one that I did, I recorded myself doing it. This is one for consumers, not for agents. And now I have that recording in my resources area. So all of my CDPs can access it whenever they want and practice, 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 practice. And it gets better because I even give away my PowerPoint presentation, so that now you don't have a blank sheet of paper. You actually have a presentation to work out of. Yes, folks, you might be thinking, my God, this guy is the most wonderful person I've ever met. No, 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 far from it. But I do know that as real estate agents, you got to make it as turnkey as possible. I really do think you can grow your business. How? By helping other people. Isn't that great? I kind of coined this phrase. You can do exceptionally well by helping. You can do well financially by doing good for others. There's nothing wrong with making a good living by doing good for others. So become a CDPE. Find out more about it. Go to our website. There's a ton of membership benefits included. This is that resource area I was telling you about. You have 24/7 access to this. Go in there all the time. I got forms for you to use, disclosures. I got marketing pieces for you to use. I got it all. We have our own Facebook group. We got our own map, so CDPs can go ahead and send business to each other. The best way for you to take the course is online on demand, because you can start today. Now, when people invite me to come out and teach it live and in person, absolutely, I love to go out there. If you're a team leader, a broker owner, you're connected to the board, and you want to go ahead and see what it would take to get me out there and teach one live and in person, let's do it. But let's talk money. Our class is $499, and it includes your first year's membership. We are a designation. The difference between a designation and certification is designations require a yearly fee. Our yearly fee is only $99, 27 cents a day. You're not going to renew if you didn't see the value. It's that simple. So your $499 includes your first year. But wait, there's more. I'm going to give you a special price for being on the call and putting up with me. So if you use the code IRNC, Riches and Niches Conference, you can get a price of $399. So $100 off, but it ends this year. All right. So $399 ends this year. Use this code RINC. But wait, there's even more. Raise your hand if you're with LPT. If you're with LPT, you know I got to take care of my people. The price is only $299. Okay. Now, I did this in anticipation that our course is going to be approved by LPT. So I figured if it isn't in fact approved, the price is going to be $299 for members. I wasn't going to sell it for more and have somebody come back and say, but wait a minute, you sold it to me for $399. Now you're offering it for $299. So I'm just kind of like anticipating that I'm going to get the go ahead, and I'm offering it through the end of the year for $299. So this is a great chance, folks. I'm saving you money, and you have the opportunity to go ahead and get the CDPE and save some money at the same time. Anyway, any questions? I mean, I may have broken the record for a presentation like that, but if you do have any questions, type them into the chat area, and we've also put the links and everything in. But I want to keep this going, and I want to talk about working with investors, building a solid investor business, and understanding the residential real estate investor opportunity. So I'm going to introduce you today to the CIAS. Okay, the CDP is mine. The CIAS is a sister designation to the CDP. It had the same owners before. And when I bought the CDP, my friend Brandon Lauder bought the CIAS. And so we work together to provide these two designations to people across the country. Did you know that more investors than primary homeowners initially reach out to a real estate agent? I didn't know that. You would think it'd be the other way around, but no, investors actually reach out to real estate agents initially more than real estate agents. And you start to think, well, why? Answer is simple. We have MLS access. They don't. So they reach out to us for that. What else do we have? Well, we have a knowledge of the market, so we can help them with a CMA. Last but not least, we have access to the property, which they may not. So in essence, they reach out to us to use and abuse us if we're not careful. So we got to learn to do something a little bit better there. But then fewer investors actually close with a real estate agent than primary homeowners. Well, that sucks. More of them start reaching out to us, but few of them close. In fact, 22% more reach out to us initially, but 29% less close. And it's simple. The answer is simple. There's a disconnect. So here's what happened. The agents that get that magic phone call or email text saying, I'm an investor, I'm interested in this, somehow, some way, not in every situation, but many times they fail to establish enough value. They don't have a value proposition that person says, you know what, I want to work through you. And they get used for whatever knowledge they can go ahead and get. And then the investor uses another agent, or will go ahead and approach the people themselves. We need to change that. In 2022 and 2023, only 48% of real estate investors purchased using an agent or broker. Okay, that's sad. When you talk about the potential, when you look at these 2 years, residential purchases, 33% of properties purchased were investment or second homes, 25% were investment only, 8% were second homes. Now, this can be a little muddled because what if it's an Airbnb property, they bought it as a second home, but they're actually using it for Airbnb purposes, so it's kind of like a hybrid. But there was a total production of $1.144 trillion in sales volume for those 2 years, which basically said there was $34 billion in potential agent commissions up for grabs. But we didn't get all of it. We only got 48% of it. So $17.5 billion was missed in terms of potential commission to us. This has to change, and this is correctable. We just have to establish our value and our worth at the very, very beginning. Now, one of the reasons why agents are missing a lot of this investor business is because the agents are too dependent on the MLS. You know, almost every day one of my agents comes to me and says, I got an investor that's looking for a deal. And I go, all right, well, listen, if I found a deal, I may buy it first. So, I hate when people go like, well, if you find a deal, get a hold of me. You know, and where are you going to find the deal? In the MLS? There's no deals in the MLS. By the time it hits the MLS, because nobody else wanted it. Okay. So we have to start taking on off-market listings. We got to approach for sale by owners. We have to approach distressed properties. We have to work with wholesalers so that we have access to these off-market properties. There was a time when the typical homeowner would sell and buy again 5 to 7 years. That changed. It's now 9 to 10 years. So let's think about this. You make a sale now, and if you're really, really awesome at keeping in contact with them, sending them cookie recipes and all this stuff on a regular basis, 9 or 10 years from now, they may list with you again. Who couldn't get excited about that? Now, investors, every 2 years. So think about this. You don't have to go in one direction solely or the other. Why not kind of like mix the two up there? Think about this. You sold a home today, wait 9 or 10 years, right? And then 18 years later, you got 2 deals out of it. You could have had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 transactions in that same time span if you were working with professional investors. Think about this. What are you missing out on right now? Now, there's 2 typical investors, right? There's buy and hold, okay, landlords, and then there's rehab and resell. And, recently I posted in one of the groups and one of the agents, you know that all groups, private groups and everything else, they all have people that have too much time on their hands. And this guy posts, oh yeah, working with investors so that they can go ahead and buy the property 60 and 70 cents on the dollar, and homeowners can't go ahead and buy properties anymore and everything else. And I get it. There's a lot of anger toward the big institutional owners. I'm not going to mention their names. You know who they are. But the ones I'm talking about are just Mr. and Mrs. Smith, people that are just, they have a portfolio of properties. And when I responded, because I know who these people are, and I've seen it, he posts on multiple people. He's always got something to say. And it's hard for me to stay quiet because it's just kind of like, dude, get a life. But, I responded to him. I go, you do understand that investors are buying properties that are completely torn up, that don't qualify for financing, and fix them up so that regular folks can qualify for financing and buy these properties. And he goes, yeah, LOL, something that they could do themselves with a conventional loan if the prices were like they were 4 or 5 years ago. And that's when I wrote this guy off. I go, basically, his strategy was if it was only 4 or 5 years ago, they could do something about it. It's not. All right. So I'm not an anti-landlord kind of person, because the reality is 34% of Americans depend on somebody else to provide a place for them to rent. I've been a landlord. I've been a tenant. Okay. I know there are rotten landlords out there and there's rotten tenants out there. The reality is a significant percentage of our population are renters. 44 million American households are renters. So there's a definite need for people to take that risk, buy a property, and allow someone to rent it. So there's opportunities there to do both. But here's a problem. Influencers, right? They're getting into people's heads, and there's more and more people out there saying you shouldn't buy a home now. The properties, your own home is not really an investment. This is starting to resonate with a lot of people, especially younger folks. Younger folks are pretty much turned off in many cases to buying for a couple different reasons. One is these influencers saying that's the last thing you want to do. And then the other thing is they're discouraged. Gen Zs, there's over 68 million of them. There's, my wife and I, we have 2 of them. Okay. They're the most depressed, anxious generation we've had in a while. And if you have Gen Zs in your family, raise your hand because you probably know what I'm talking about. All the options they have in life, all the ways to go ahead and communicate all the things they're going to do, it's just they're losing it. But one of the things that they are is they're thinking we're probably going to be the first generation that are not going to be as well off as our previous generation. And I can get that. When they look at the job opportunities, the market out there, they're getting master's degrees, they're getting PhDs, they're not able to get a job and everything else. It can be discouraging for them. So maybe a lot of them are just going to be turned off from buying, period. And you know, a lot of them can't buy. Look what's happened in the past several years. Properties have doubled price, you know, interest rates and everything else. But they are going to be a significant percentage of the workforce. And my hopes are that as they mature, as they start to earn more money, that they'll realize that maybe it's not about buying in for an investment purpose. Maybe it's about the American dream. Maybe it's about lifestyle. Maybe it's about not having a landlord having control over you and taking that home away from you when you want. Renting can be very, very profitable. You know, when you look at the rents, how much they've appreciated over the past 36 years, yeah, for people that are in this position, they have benefited greatly from this. And there's a lot of folks out there wanting to get into this business. Real estate is a key to wealth. The question is, are we asking this question? You know, we're going to get together with people over the holidays, right? Maybe friends, family members you haven't seen for a while. And, you know, God forbid you're going to talk about politics, because that could probably end the evening or not so well. But people are going to ask, hey, what have you been up to? What are you doing? What do you do for a living? And I think most real estate agents answer the question wrong. You know, like, for example, if you're asked, how's the market? And your response is, it sucks. That's probably not a good way to build your business. I think if someone would ask you, how's the market? I says, you know what? It's complicated. Really depends on your perspective if you're selling or you're buying. You know what I tend to work with? I work with a lot of investors. In fact, I really love creating investors. I love speaking to people that never really thought about becoming an investor and share with them that it's really not that complicated if it's someone can show you the steps. Why don't you start having those kind of conversations with people and ask them, do you own an investment property? And let's see how many come back and say yes, and how many says, no, I've always wanted to. Well, let's set up a time to talk about this. And you know what? One of the best ways to have credibility with potential investors or investors is to be an investor yourself. I'm not saying you have to be one to do it. No, I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying it can't hurt if you're also an investor and you're having this conversation with other people. So investors, one property every 2 years, so half a deal per year. So here's your goal. Let me add 10 investors a year going forward. Hey, the next year is around the corner. Now's the time to go ahead and start working on this. What can happen if you have 10 investors doing an extra half a deal per year? That's 5 extra deals per year. You know what? That might be more than what you're doing right now with everything that you're doing. And then you start to compound it because you picked up 10 the first year. Now the next year you have 20. Now you have 30 for 40. By the 5th year, you have 50 investors doing half a deal per year. That should be the goal. This is what you're seeking. Okay. Now, get familiar with what financing are available to them. Yes, a certain percentage, 48% will use cash, but more often than not, they're getting financing. Maybe they're getting some of these risky loans. You need to work with lenders that offer those loans, just in case these folks don't. Now, they may come out of watching our, HGTV say, I want to be an investor. They don't have a team at all, and you're going to help them by helping them put together a team. Okay. And there's hard money loans as well. Get familiar with what hard money lenders there are out there, what they're offering, what their rates are, and everything else, so that you can present options to your investors. On your drive home, right? What are you thinking about? Man, who's making dinner? Man, are the kids doing their homework? Man, all this. And maybe, just maybe, you got these blinders on and you're driving past some amazing opportunities that exist in your neighborhood. I mean, do you ever notice when someone's lawn is reaching, somebody's neck? When houses are boarded up and everything like that, There could be opportunities there. Stop, look, knock. And if they don't want to answer is because the house is vacant, go to the people that know, the neighbors, the nosy neighbors that know everything that's going on. And then you could do your research on those properties. But every single day, we're driving by opportunities because we don't have our antenna up. We're not looking. We're not actually thinking along those terms. The typical investor business for real estate agents, or the typical way agents approach investors, is to be reactive. You know, the phone rang, an investor reached out to them, and then because the investor found something and says, hey, can you tell me more about this property? All right. And then you do, and your hope and prayer is that they're going to use you to write the offer. Maybe they don't. Remember, only 48% do. So you're hoping and praying that that person will use you. Well, why don't you turn it around? Big mistake agents make is they share too much. They send out a text with too much information, including the address of the property. They basically make it so that the investor can use somebody else or do it themselves, as opposed to establishing value for themselves. Because when you approach an investor, they do their due diligence, they do their homework. If the numbers add up, what have you done to make sure that they're reaching out to you? Okay, well, one thing you could do is maybe withhold certain information that they can't get unless they're willing to sign some type of buyer broker agreement with you, right? So let's become proactive. Let's find opportunities by knocking on foreclosure. Let's go ahead and reach out to for sale by owners. Let's go ahead and start working the pre-foreclosures. You know, I mean, if you're out there listing potential short sale properties and you're the listing agent, the properties can be introduced to your prospective investor groups. Okay. And that could be an opportunity for you there. Okay. Very, very important. Professional investors are looking to work with someone that's credible, that's organized. Please be on time to your meetings. This is my pet peeve, and my agents know this. I cannot stand when agents show up to appointments late and meetings late. I think that that is a sure way of losing the deal right out of the gate. Build an investment team that you can share with other folks. What contractors do you know? Okay. Financing, title company, hard money lenders, all of these things here. But more than anything else, it comes down to your knowledge of what the market. They need to know what is the after repairs market value of this property, so I can determine how much I can make. By the way, if you think that what you see on TV is real, think again. Most investors are seeking 18 to 24% return on their investments on these flips. That's considered a really good investment. You know, so it's not about what you see on TV. I bought it for 100,000, I sold it for $1 million. No, that's not usually how it works. But you know what? You have to interview the investor and find out, tell me about your return. The problem is agents don't speak investors speak. For example, does a typical real estate agent know what cap rate is? You know, if you don't, then you're kind of behind the eight ball in trying to secure their business, because that's a critical component to an investor. And you have to have the spreadsheets that are needed in order to go ahead and plug in numbers, have the spreadsheets take off on their own, produce the numbers, and then you can go to an investor and say, now, based on what you told me you're looking for, this property might work for you. If these numbers are okay for you, sign here and I'll show it to you. Right? So stop being reactive, become proactive. Stop going to investor networking events looking for business cards and asking them, what are you looking for? Go to them with actual deals in your hand and say, well, I do have a deal. Maybe you're the right investor for this deal. All of this can be taught to you. I'm not saying that this is the only way that it could be taught, but the CIAS way is a great way to go ahead and learn how to do all this. And let me tell you something right now. Investors are only loyal to the deal. Okay. I've had rookie agents come to me and say, well, now that we're all getting buyer brokers agreements, how do I get a real estate investor to sign an exclusive buyer broker agreement? I go, you don't. They typically will never sign an exclusive with any given agent, but they will sign on a particular deal, on a particular property. So you're not seeking an umbrella blanket coverage. You're going to work solely with me. That's not how investors do it. But I'm bringing you a deal. If this is interesting to you, sign here. And now you're protecting yourself so they can't pull an end run on you. I'm going to ask you to seek out more information about the CIAS designation because it's amazing. I'm going to go ahead and skip this part right now because it really does. Let me see. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so go here.
Event.
All right, I was trying this guy. All right, it won't let me go. It won't let me go, man. All right, there he goes. Now, Brandon's course is amazing. It's 12 hours. He teaches it by Zoom. He spreads it out over 4 sessions so it doesn't overwhelm you. His manual's 400 pages. He's got the investment calculator, so you don't have to create them or buy them. You just go ahead and plug the numbers in there. He has mastermind meetings. You get to use the CIS designation logo. He teaches you about self-directed IRAs, 1031 exchanges, the whole gamut. It's amazing how much he teaches you. His price is ridiculous. It's only $349 for everything he teaches you. It also includes your first year's membership. He's also $99 a year after that, 27 cents a day. But he is offering special pricing to individuals that are on this call. You could save $100 by scanning. I'll give you a chance to scan in by scanning this, or Jeanette will, or Lynette will go ahead and post a link. And all you got to do is go on there and say, it's not even a link to purchase. It's a link to go ahead and get more information. And then Brandon himself will call you and and you could ask him every question you have and see if this is the right course for you or the right niche for you. Okay, quickly, my journey with LPT. We were going to join over a year ago when there were only 3,500 agents across the entire country. And we got cold feet. And it's one of my biggest regrets because when my wife and I joined this year in May, we were at about 10,000 agents. So we could have had an even bigger head start. But you know what? There's that saying that when's the best time to plant a tree? 25 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. So this guy's a genius. Robert Palmer is the founder. And main reason why we went this route is because there are things we just simply couldn't offer our agents as an independent. Now, we didn't go to LPT out of weakness. We weren't broke. We weren't losing money. We're doing very well. But we knew the landscape had changed. And we knew it was becoming increasingly more difficult for our agents to compete in the market. As a small independent, there were things we could not offer. We had technology limitations. We had marketing limitations. We had agents asking, hey, how do I get shares in your company? I go, you can't. We're privately owned. So they couldn't offer stocks. We had agents saying, hey, I've seen a lot of brokerages are offering revenue share, giving you a chance to grow an organization. You ever going to do that? No, sorry, we're not sophisticated enough to do that. So the list of things we couldn't do started going higher than the list of things we could do. But we didn't want to lose our identity. We have built a brand. We have built a culture. And based on the system where it's agent choice, we were able to go ahead and incorporate all this. My agents now, when they go on a listing presentation, they take this listing kit with them. And it gives them an amazing edge as far as being able to take those listings. So if you're looking for an edge to be able to take more listings from a marketing perspective, we can't be touched. We have the commission plans. You know, I couldn't offer 100% commission to my agents, but now they can. See, I can sponsor an agent anywhere in the country. I'm not restricted. I mean, I think there's only 1 or 2 states that we're not opening right yet. Just last week, I brought somebody on from South Carolina, and this week I'm bringing somebody on from Minnesota. And they have the option of going on a 100% plan with only $500 per transaction plus a $195 admin fee and a 5,000 cap. That's incredible. Now, if they're into getting stocks, if they're into building an organization, then they can go with our 80-20 route. And we call it the hybrid shore business partner program. And that has a 15,000 cap. So we have what you're looking for. If all you care about is to net as much money as you can on every deal, then the 100% model is the way for you. If you're looking at building wealth, generational wealth, then maybe the 80-20 model is the best for you. LPT is privately owned right now, but we're going public toward the end of next year. I'm excited about that. Every time I earn shares because I sold something or someone I sponsored sold something, and that number starts to add up. And this is how I looked at the future. My wife and I just looked at each other and said, you want to be doing what you're doing 5 years from now? No. So, and that's why we made the move. Now, for you, it could be any of these things. Maybe the button for you is the fact that we're launching our own luxury brand, Aperture. Not a luxury division. We already have that. We're launching an actual luxury brand. This could get super exciting and opportunities that we have for growth. So anyway, here's what I think you should do. If you're with LPT, congratulations. Ask yourself, are you using all the tools that are available? Are you plugged into Motivational Monday? Are you using all of these things? Do you know about Connect 2.0? Are you getting in there and using it? Because a lot of agents are not using what's available to them right now. So start using it. If you're not with LPT and you like to find out more, then contact the person that invited you. Maybe somebody else from LPT invited you onto this call. Please reach out to them directly. If no one invited you and you found out about it because I posted it on Facebook or something like that, and you'd like to know more about it, then please contact me directly. I'd be happy to go ahead and share my story in more detail and talk to you about what your goals are, what your needs are, and to see if there's a good fit for you. All right, last but not least, we're going to talk about probate. All right, so let's do this. Probate is essentially a process. It's an administration, an estate administration process. When somebody passes away, the estate, everything they owned, needs to go through the probate process, unless, of course, they had a trust. And it's so that the heirs or the will that was left by the decedent is followed. So ideally, the person, the decedent, we don't refer to them as the dead dude, we refer to them as the decedent. We go ahead and say they died with a will, and this is saying, these are my wishes, and I want this done. So the court will make sure that that's followed. And sadly, too many pass away without a will, and then they want to make sure that someone is appointed to go ahead and have that. It is completely misunderstood area, okay? And a lot of times people say, well, if they had a will, they don't have to do probate, right? I go, wrong, they do, okay? Unless, of course, they had, like, for example, a trust. When I said earlier, the dead dude versus decedent, that's my way of saying, folks, there's language in this business as well, and you have to be respectful. When you work with pre-foreclosures, it's a very emotional niche. People are losing their homes. And then in the middle, you got investors, and it's really a non-emotional scenario. It's all about numbers. Now we're talking about probate. And that, once again, is very emotional because somebody passed away. We have to be respectful when we're approaching the personal representative, because they're probably a friend or family member, okay? And there's little things, nuances that you learn. For example, you go up to them and you say, look, I'm sorry for your loss, right? And then you feel like you have to add more, and you say, I know what you're going through. Don't ever say that. Don't ever say, I know what you're going through. You don't. Even if you went through something similar, you really don't know what they're going through. So what tends to happen is, in our ignorance, we talk too much, as opposed to say, I am so sorry for your loss. My condolences to you and their family members. How may I help? And that's what we do, okay? Now, why do it? There's so many other areas you can focus on. Why would you even consider probate? So write this down, okay? Remember what I mentioned earlier? Being a listing agent now is more important than ever before. If you said yes to that earlier, then this applies now. This is a fabulous way to take listings. I'm not opening this up to you so that you can go out and represent buyers in probate sales. I want you to take the probate listings. I want you to go out there and capture more listings. Why work probate? Because it's economy proof. What does that mean? That means people are going to die in any economy. It's just a fact. Okay. You didn't cause it. It's a fact. People say, oh man, you're taking advantage of people losing their homes. I didn't cause it. People are losing their homes. I'm giving a chance of walking away with dignity. Okay. So this is an economy proof niche. It doesn't matter whether we're in a recession, depression, or any of that stuff. There's going to be deaths. There's going to be probate. It's currently uncrowded. I won't be able to say this much longer because one of the most popular classes right now, if not the most popular, you know what? Right now, if you go to any association of realtors, what's been the most popular class has been the buyer broker agreement. That's been beat to death, right? And that's, I mean, by now you either know it or you don't. But if there's a second one, it's probate. Because this is an area that people are latching onto and realizing, wait a minute, I don't know anything about this. I should. So it won't be uncrowded for long. The leads are easy to obtain. A lot of them are free because you just go to the courthouse site, right? And you can pull the information from there. This is public record. But there's limitations to how much information is shared. So you may elect to spend some money with one of these sources that can give you more information on each of these. And even that is low cost. So the acquisition cost is very, very low. Now think about this. Most heirs have no choice but to sell the property. Why? They got to pay off debts. There's a mortgage or mortgages, and there's other estate debts. So most of them don't have the luxury of saying, we're keeping the home. They have to sell it. Okay. Now, for those that are heirs and walk away with some money, then they have proceeds now that they might be looking to invest, maybe in real estate. So take your pick. For all of these reasons, probably others I didn't list, this is an exceptional area to focus on. Now, does the market support the number of agents that can get in? How big is the market? You tell me. In 2023, there were over 3 million deaths in our country. Okay, it happens. Now, this next figure, every time I see it, it kind of bothers me, kind of concerns me, because every single day, 2,000 baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer, die every day. That's 730,000 per year. And if I always tell people, keep an eye on me, during the rest of this class, okay? It's just a fact of life, folks. We have an aging population. Okay, the baby boomers they're in their 80s and 90s. Okay, I'm 64, but the baby boomers started in 1945, 46 through 63. A lot of baby boomers out there. Approximately 3 million probate cases are opened every year. So how many are you getting? Exactly. Okay. Now let's get serious for a second, because I could be a little irreverent, when I'm trying to keep your attention in this very difficult medium. But this is serious stuff. Only 32% of Americans have a will. This is something that needs to change. Now, if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't, and the fact that she runs the household, she runs the finances, and without her, I'd be lost. I wouldn't have a will, because I came from that mindset that no, maybe it's cultural. You're like, no, you're not supposed to talk about death, because if we talk about death, then you die. I hate to break it to you. You're going to die no matter what. So it comes down to, are you leaving your family better in a position where they can carry on with less hassles, or are you leaving them in a very difficult position? If you don't have a will, I'm going to encourage all of you to please, if you don't do it by the end of the year, make that a New Year's resolution. It doesn't have to be fancy. I mean, I'm not an attorney, of course, but it would make sense that the fewer assets you have, the more simplistic your will can be. And whether you do it online or through an attorney, look into it, please. This next one is even more important, and that is only 18% of Americans have a living trust. Okay, I'm one of those 18% because of my wife, because we said, you know what? We've been blessed to have some assets. We want to make sure if something happens to both of us, that our kids, grandkids, people are taken care of, and we're allocating the assets the way we want them to. And it was a process. It took us 2 or 3 months because there's a lot of information that needs to be shared. It's expensive. It probably costs us between $4,000 and $6,000 to do it. But let me tell you, I have peace of mind. You know, when my time comes and all that, I know that everything is done in such a way where they're taken care of. Now, the process on the surface could seem very complicated. Let me try to break it down in simple terms for you. It's on a county by county basis. Every county has their own nuances. So this is something that you have to kind of become familiar with how it's done in the counties that you service. Okay. Now, what happens is that if there's a will, there's going to be an executor or personal representative that's named in that will. And they're going to file what is called a petition for administration with the circuit court. And basically, it has to be approved by the court. The court wants to make sure that this individual is in the position to follow the instructions. They may even be required to post a bond. Now, if approved, they will receive letters of administration. This is important because if you're going to take this listing, the personal representative is the one that's going to have the authority to sign that listing agreement. Don't take it on their word that they are authorized to do it. Ask to see and procure copies of the letters of administration so that you are protecting yourself. And an entire process, the transaction needs to be approved by the court. You know, the court wants to make sure that that property is being sold for highest and best so that the most amount of money is being generated for the estate to pay off expenses and also to provide any excess for the heirs. Now, folks that avoid probate, they do it through estate planning, which is what I've been talking about, having a trust. Now, here's the thing. There's no substitute for getting an attorney involved. Do not, don't play law. You're going to have folks that come to you and say, do I need an attorney? And, you know, we as real estate professionals are trained to say, you never say, well, no, you don't need an attorney. You say, look, an attorney is an option that you have. I think attorneys are great to partner with. And I think you need to get some on your list. More on that in a bit. But I think that you and your circle of influence, your family members and all that, you should kind of lead the way. If you don't have a trust, look into a trust. And then if you get it, try to get the members of your family to also follow suit to go ahead and do this. But the way we have ours set up, it will not go through the probate process. So we're sparing our family, our heirs from having to go through all that because it's carefully structured so that everything gets transferred over seamlessly. And I think it's something that all of us have the ability to strive for. Generating business, don't be an ambulance chaser, but you do need to be assertive in seeking out the data. You go through the courts, like this one is Broward County, where I reside. Okay, so find out in what county, the circuit court for your county, there's an area on that website where this information is made public. Now, they'll be limited to how much information is available. So that's what I mean by sometimes you have to put a little bit of money into it. I get it. As real estate agents, we want to do everything on a budget, but not everything can be free. So look for services out there that provide you data, and then you decide which one you want to use. One that I came across that's used by a lot of different companies is probatedata.com. I'm not endorsing them. I don't have a relationship with them, but I figure, let me give you something to work with, and then you can start comparing. But when I went to their website, and I went to probatedata.com/pricing, I started looking at this and I'm going, well, this makes sense. $147 a month. Okay, what do I get? Well, there's no setup fee. 3 counties are included. Well, for me, that would work out because Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, I can download 100 cases per month and so on and so forth. So this might be the perfect scenario for you. Now, like if you're a team leader or something that I'm doing internally is within my overall team, I'm going to have a personal group that's going to focus on distressed properties. So it's kind of a division and a probate division within my team. And I'll pick 2 or 3 sharp agents that really, really understand this. And we're going to go after this very aggressively because you have to get these lists. You have to email them. You have to call. Please make sure you're always scrubbing the numbers against the do not call list so that you don't get in trouble. You have to use social media, but use it in a professional way, a dignified way, and just begin. Now, another thing you can do is make contact with as many estate attorneys as you can. Every realtor and their brothers trying to get their business to come up with a way of being unique, ask them, take them to lunch, do something. Maybe you could do webinars together or something. But if you can just get 2 or 3 estate attorneys to potentially bring your name up when a family comes in and they don't have a real estate agent, then your name can potentially come up. The next step is training for all 3 of these. The next step is training. And there's different classes available there. A good friend of mine, his name is Buddy West. He created the Certified Probate Specialist designation. This is the class I was telling you that's just selling out everywhere he goes. Go to certifiedprobatespecialist.org. certifiedprobatespecialist.org. And there you can find out more information about when he's teaching a live class, and he may have an online version already for you. So, folks, I hope that I was able to share enough information with you to open your eyes up to some different areas of opportunity. Any questions? I'm looking at the chat here. Jeanette, Sarah, thank you so much. She's a CDP. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you do when you go out there. Jeanette has shared information. RedX is being shared there. Okay. So I know I hit you with a lot, but here's the thing. It's recorded. You can play it back. Do me a favor. We're going to send a recording out probably tomorrow at the latest to everyone that registered. When you get it in your hot little hands, don't be greedy with it. Share it with somebody else. Share it with other people, because the more educated our industry is, the better off we're going to be. Anyway, I thank you so very much for your time and attention. I hope you found it to be productive. And if you want to reach out to me personally, Jeanette, if you can go ahead and just share my CDPD email on there. All roads lead to Rome anyway. And put our office number on there, Jeanette, as well, so that if they want to reach out and talk to me about LPT, or they just have another question or concern, that I can be a resource for you. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now. And I hope you guys have an incredible Christmas, an incredible holiday season, a fantastic New Year. And listen, folks, if you hung in there this long, don't quit now. All right. We get to start over in 2025. God bless all of you. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.